exploring our bilateral relationships with the Netherlands and the Republic of Ghana and the Kingdom of Netherlands, as I'm sure you're aware, share a long history which dates back many, many centuries. I've read somewhere in the 1701, so a long standing history. But the evidence we see today of what our shared cultural heritage of the two countries mean to both sides. And we've identified that as present as mutual or common cultural heritage, and it is an integral part of the prevailing bilateral relations. It is a reminder of the shared history of the two countries, and that in the field of cultural heritage in particular, there is a lot to explore. This morning, we are privileged to have in the studio the Deputy Prime Minister of the Netherlands, who is here, His Excellency Wopke Hoekstra. He is also the Foreign Minister of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Good morning, Your Excellency. Thank you for making the time.
Well, good morning, ma'am, and thank you very much for having me on the show. It is a privilege and a great pleasure.
I understand you just arrived yesterday. How has that been?
It has been fantastic. We arrived with a larger delegation coming from the Benelux, so that is the Netherlands, Belgium and Luxembourg, and we were privileged to meet the President and also Madam Shirley Botchway, my colleague here in office, and it was fantastic to meet her and have a conversation about all the bilateral and also international topics.
When it comes to Ghana and the Netherlands, what are some of the ties that bind us? What do we have in common?
Well, clearly we have trade. The Netherlands is, from the European perspective, the largest trade partner of Ghana. There is a large community from Ghana in the Netherlands, but probably most importantly, what we truly share is a common outlook on what is most important at the world stage. The rule of law, multilateralism, respect for human rights, all these things which are ever more important in today's world, is something that truly binds Ghana and the Netherlands together.
What do we trade in predominantly?
It is cacao, in which you are of course huge, and we are privileged to receive a lot of that in the Netherlands, and then that is being distributed, but actually the list is much longer. But what I always say is that even though that is already at a pretty high state, I think there's ample opportunity to further explore what we can do in the realm of business. And the reason is that trade is always much more than just a transaction. It is a way of fostering understanding between people and a way to further shape bilateral bonds.
So is that the focus of this visit? Is that what you're here to explore? And what did you talk about with the President and then the Foreign Minister? Well,
that is certainly one of the areas of interest of all countries who are here, so all the Benelux countries and Ghana. I think the second topic, which is of course of utmost importance, is regional stability, where Ghana is I think playing a fantastic role as a very stable partner in Africa. But of course, if you look at the continent and also this part of the continent, there's also reason to worry, particularly if you look at the situation up north. And then third, we as Europeans, again after the Second World War, now have a war raging on our continent, and that is something where Ghana and the Netherlands also see eye to eye, and where we truly feel honored and privileged to have you as a friend and a partner by our side.
When you talk about regional stability, and you brought up the Russia-Ukraine war, we'll get to Benelux in a little while, but what has been the impact really on your side of the globe? We feel the effects on this side with the interruptions in trade and fuel supplies and whatnot, which has led to price hikes across many countries. But where does Netherlands feel the pinch of this conflict?
Well, first of all, you're very right. The unfortunate thing is that wherever you are, north, south, east, west, all over the globe, the effects of this horrible war are being felt in terms of food prices, in terms of energy prices, in terms of inflation, and we're all at the receiving end of what the Russians are doing in the war they are waging. Of course, for us, this is almost literally at our doorstep. This is happening in Europe, and Ukraine truly runs the risk of being wiped off of the face of the earth. And the reports, and I spoke to many people in Ukraine when I was there myself, are truly devastating. It is the murder of innocent men, women and children. It is the rape of women, but also men and children. It is the abduction of children. And literally every single day, the Russians are committing hundreds of war crimes on Ukrainian soil against the civilian population. So absolutely horrible and breathtaking. And therefore it is so important that we as an international community stand up for sovereignty and for human rights.
How are you helping to bring an end to this situation? I know that the EU has put a lot into it, but Ukraine continues to ask for more and more support, asking for ammunition so they can also win back or gain back some of the territories that the Russian forces are making and the inroads they are making into their country. What's the Netherlands' contribution to that collaboration?
Well, it is exactly as you say. They have been entering the country. They are trying to basically eradicate the country. And therefore, the Ukrainians have no choice than to fight, which they do in a tremendously impressive way. But for that, given that they're much smaller than the Russian army, they do need our help. And we're providing them with help through military support. We are harboring a large contingency of Ukrainian refugees in the Netherlands, but also all across Europe. We're providing them with humanitarian aid. And we're also trying to help them with seeking justice and making sure that once the war is over, humanity truly speaks out that this is unacceptable and that in the end the rule of law should prevail.
When you ask for help from across the world and you ask for countries to step up and support, is that what the Netherlands, Belgium and Luxembourg are doing, the so-called Benelux?
Well, one of the things we are delighted to have also from our dear friends in Ghana, from your government, is that they have articulated in the United Nations, the family of nations that brings us all together, the importance of sovereignty and the condemnation of this war. Full knowing, of course, that all across Africa, but also Latin America and Asia, the adverse effects of the war are being felt. So for us, of course, there's even more skin in the game, and we are over-investing to help them out. But we are delighted that Ghana is playing such a pivotally important role in articulating what is right and what is wrong at the UN and in all the multilateral fora.
So where does Belgium and Luxembourg come in here? What's the relationship there?
They are actually our neighbors and our friends. We are all three relatively small countries in the northwest of Europe. Together we have a population that is comparable to Ghana as a whole. And all three of us have a common history, have a lot of trade ties, have a lot of commonalities in terms of world outlook. And all three of us are amongst the founding members of the European Union. So we often team up, and once in a year we have the opportunity to travel together. And I'm now chairing the Benelux this year, and after Madame Botchway visiting me in The Hague, I said to my colleagues from Belgium and Luxembourg, let's go to Ghana. I would love to go, would love to further explore our bilateral contacts. So here we are.
And now, in this exploration journey that you are on, what kind of partnerships are you seeking, and what kind of opportunities are you looking to identify here?
It is basically along the lines we just discussed, to see how we can help each other with regional stability. Also well knowing the pressing concerns Ghana is having, which I understood yesterday, of course, from the President and the Foreign Minister, but also from the Minister of the Interior and the Minister of Security. Secondly, to team up and to defend multilateralism, to defend the UN, to defend sovereignty. And third, of course, strengthening our bilateral relations, trade, and also the very vibrant community that binds us together. Because I think there are approximately 1,000 Dutch here in Ghana, but there are more than 20,000 Ghanese in the Netherlands. So they are, I think, the most vibrant proof of our bilateral relationship.
Where are the cultural ties? I hear the cultural heritage come up a lot in what you're looking to do. What do we have in common when it comes to our cultures? Because we are sitting here in West Africa, you are in northern part of Europe, and we are asking ourselves, what culture could we possibly have in common?
And you're right, we're thousands of kilometers apart. But what it is, what we share, is a set of values that in the end is probably the most important for mankind to defend. It is an outlook on how to treat men, women and children. It is an outlook on the importance, the tremendous importance of democracy, which is vulnerable, but which we should all stand up for. It is an outlook on the rule of law and making sure that the world is being ruled by international law rather than by aggression. And next to that, Ghana has been a true champion of stability here in the region, but also across the globe. And I think that makes us so like-minded, and that is why we always continue to find each other. We were delighted to have the President at a conference about water and climate change a couple of months ago in the Netherlands. But of course our bonds are even broader, and the fact that we are here now is testimony to that friendship.
I think let us have an idea of who your other friends are. Just tell us who's also in the group with you and the offices that they represent from Belgium and Luxembourg, you said.
Yeah, so it is Jean Asselborn. He is my dear colleague from Luxembourg, and he's tremendously experienced. He is, I think, one of the most senior foreign ministers across the globe with, I think, more than 15 years of experience. Then there is Adja Labib. She's the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Belgium, but unfortunately she had to stay in her country because of parliamentary obligations. But Belgium has the special envoy and ambassador here with us, and we're with a delegation of approximately 20 people now here today. And end of the day, we're flying to Kenya for the second part of our trip.
Okay, so you're leaving Ghana today.
It is way too short. So that is a very good reason to be back, man.
You just got here yesterday and you're leaving today. Have you had enough engagement? Have you found what you're looking for?
We have, and I can only say that the amount of friendship and partnership that we have experienced in the dialogue with the President and with, of course, Madam Botchway, but also the other ministers and all staff was truly tremendous. But if anything, it tastes for more, and for me personally also, it is a very, very good reason to be back.
I wonder what your program until you leave looks like. What's the rest of your day looking like today for you and your team?
So, of course, I'm delighted to be here on the show. It is not only my first in Ghana, but it is also my first appearance on national television here, which is quite extraordinary to be able to participate in. Then we will go to the Dutch embassy and meet our staff, which is partly local, partly Dutch, which is a great group of people who are here serving our country and working and fostering our bilateral ties. And we're also going to some of the ancient forts to get a bit of a feel for history. And then, unfortunately, it is off to the next country.
I'm happy you mentioned the forts and castles because it's one of the key signs of Dutch presence in Ghana and in the Gold Coast back then. And it's part of the history of how Ghana became the way it was and dating back to the historical ties that we continue to have with the Netherlands. So I'm glad that you're visiting some of the forts and castles. And I will just ask one last question, which is, when you look at the way the relationship between Ghana and the Netherlands have grown, what other area do you think needs attention? Now that you've been here, now that you've listened to some of our leaders and you've met some of our people, where do you identify as potential areas to expand this relationship?
So it is trade, it is migration, it is climate change, it is regional stability, and it is global stability. And if you add that all up, that is decades of work for politicians, business people, and civil society alike. So a very good reason to have my colleagues from Ghana over again in the Netherlands, and to be back here myself, either alone or with my friends of the Benelux. And I'm already very much looking forward to it.
Any information you'd like to share before we rise from this?
Well, ma'am, it was a privilege, an honor, and a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Your Excellency, thank you for
Thank you,
making
ma'am.
the
Thank
time.
you.
His Excellency, the Deputy Prime Minister of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, has been our guest. He is Wopke Hoekstra, and I have to say that correctly, Wopke Hoekstra.
Well done.
And he's been sitting with us. He's Foreign Minister for the Netherlands, talking to us about bilateral relations between Ghana and his country, the opportunities that exist for trade. He's talked to us about regional stability. He's talked to us about climate change, and of course the historical sites that he will be visiting as well. Next leg of his journey will take him to Kenya with his delegation, and he's been sitting with us at the breakfast table. Your Excellency, thank you once again.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you
And we'll
very
have you
much.
back when next you're in Ghana.
I would love to. I would love to.
It would
Thank
be
you.
an honor. And this has been our sit down exploring our historical and bilateral ties with the Netherlands. We're back after the break with another interesting topic. You don't want to miss this. The Gender Minister is in the house and will also be engaging the University of Ghana Business School. Kubra Diamond is also on the bill. We'll be back.